when it comes to large POIs in Deadside, Beregovoy is the only one that qualifies as a city. Close to the southern safe zone, Beregovoy is placed right between the two other POIs where medium to hard missions spawn. The warehouse in the northeast side of the city and the harbor on the west side facing the new factory. With update 0.2, a lot of changes have been made to those three different POIs, which will turn Beregovoy into a much more interesting PvP focused place and a more authentic city. There is still room for improvements to turn it into something more ambitious, but it is most definitely going into the right direction. Before we deep dive into it too much, I want to point out that many of the assets that have been used to expand and improve Beregovoy basically come from other new areas, and that is something worth pointing out because when the team works on a big update like this one, some of the content will also be useful for what we already have in the game. So if the team creates new small towns in the future and creates new buildings like stores and police stations, fire stations and schools and whatnot, all of those could also be potentially reused to improve Beregovoy even more. Alright, so let's talk about how the POIs got improved. I guess the most obvious thing that really makes this place a lot better are the new buildings that have been added to the game, since you can access most of the individual flats, some of which also have balconies, and you can also access the rooftops. These buildings provide tons of new places where players can better utilize their mid to long range weapons and the new tripwires and C4 charges. Those flats are most definitely one of the most ideal places where you can properly use the new gadgets to slow down or prevent other players from pushing towards your location. It also means that it will make things harder for you if you want to relocate quickly or get back to your body if you got killed in one of those flats. So great spots for players, but also scavs. That's right, you will find a couple of scavs camping on those rooftops with hunting rifles, which will require you to check your surroundings more carefully when getting a notification that scavs are near you. I think this makes the gameplay a lot more authentic and interesting, especially in a game like this one. Some of those rooftops provide a pretty good view on the two nearby POIs where the missions appear. Although it's harder to see the warehouse from Beregovoy, you will most definitely get a good view on the harbor. Whether you want to snipe the scavs for the mission or players trying to do it, that's up to you how you want to use that spot. Those rooftops are not completely safe though. Although some of them have sandbags which provide extra cover, you can access the rooftops of other apartment complexes around as well, as long as the stairs are not blocked by a prop. Personally, I think the crane at the harbor is a pretty good option to check those rooftops and snipe players camping there. It's risky to get there, but it's higher than the other buildings and it gives you a pretty good overview of the city. The town also features a couple of new routes, checkpoints, and those gas pipes that go pretty much everywhere. It's not like you can use them to access specific areas quicker, but I guess they do provide additional covers. But if you have to rely on those to survive, you're pretty much as good as dead. So let's talk about the other POIs as well. Let's start with the harbor. We talked about the new crane, and that's, to be honest with you, pretty much the only new interesting thing there. But there are other props that kind of improve the atmosphere nonetheless. The crane truly provides a new valuable tactical option. You cannot go all the way to the top, and you cannot get into the control room either, which hopefully is something that they're gonna change in the future, because there isn't really any covers to protect you from all four directions at the same time. But you get a pretty good view on the city, and it's a pretty good spot to snipe players and scavs from this location. To get up there, you have to use the stairs, so there's no ladder to actually reach the top, which means that you can actually sprint to get in and out of this location. Now let's talk about the other POI, which is the warehouse, and that's the second place in Beregovoy where missions appear. The warehouse itself hasn't really changed, but what the devs did instead is that they placed a big concrete factory or maybe a power plant, I'm not really sure what it is, but basically they added this and placed it between the warehouse and the safe zone, which basically provides a good cover as you're trying to get to the POI to do the mission. What you can also do there is that you can hide in this building and wait for other players who might be trying to access the mission. The building still feels very much work in progress to me because we can't really get in the big rooms nor the tower, and I really hope we will see a better version in the future because this building is connected to a big tower that would provide a really good view on both the warehouse, its surroundings, and Beregovoy as well, all at the same time. We could potentially get two tactical options to counter snipers moving forward who camp on the rooftops of the buildings of the city. The crane at the harbor that we already have, and this tower near the warehouse that will hopefully be, accessible in the future. All in all, this new Beregovoy brings me back to some pretty old school DayZ vibe, when we had different clans claiming some buildings and fighting across roads, sniping from different balconies and rooftops. Beregovoy does not have the scale of cities you can find in other bigger tactical military shooters or survival games yet, but it is a pretty good step into the right direction in my opinion. And the updated layout of the city feels really good. It's more interesting and it's more challenging whether you like fighting against scavs or other players. Even if most of the city already existed, the new content that was created for 0.2 and added to the existing parts of the game already makes a huge difference in the gameplay. Let me know in the comments below what you like the most about the new Beregovoy city. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and to subscribe and to tick the bell to never miss any of my future videos. Honestly, it's the best way to support the channel right now. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.